All right, and we are live. We are joined today by the man himself, Mr. Jason Ansley,
Hi
the
guys.
U.S. event director of the WFP. But Jason, I wanna open the floor to you and let you tell everyone kind of what you've been doing for the past 5 years in terms of CrossFit.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot. But we've been on here before. We've chatted a little bit. They give a little brief synopsis. We ran multiple gyms in the Midwest, CrossFit gyms in the Midwest. Some affiliated, some not, just depending on size of market. But we did that for 8 years, 7 years, I guess. Um, and then we got out of the events that we were running. I was running Monster Games, and it was growing and getting big. And then we had taken a step into working with Joe and Bob from Legends Championship, and that started taking up a lot of time. So we kind of just made the decision that, like, hey, this event stuff is to do it right. We can't honor our gym at the same time, like really do what we had a vision for the competition. So our business partners and I, we split, separated. He took the gym, I took the events. We kind of went our separate ways. And so we went full on into Monster Games. And last year we did the Masters CrossFit Games with the Legends guys. And then also I sit on the executive board of Desert City Classic, which takes place actually out here and in Tempe at Arizona State. And then Legends also takes place out here. And then Monster Games just recently moved to Kansas City for this year. So that all happened in the last couple of years. And we've been out of the gym business for 18 months now, which has been super weird, not having 600 people have your phone number. But well, they still have it. They just don't text me anymore.
Yeah.
And so we, in November, and I don't know if you want me to get into this now or not, but in November, we had our first contact with World Fitness Project and kind of sat down with them. So cool. That brings us up to why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of frame this conversation, though, I think what would be really helpful is that you go over the history of Monster Games, because I think so you're the U.S. event director for World Fitness Project, but right. I have a lot of respect for you because I know your story with Monster Games and how it grew. So I think specifically starting that COVID year, I don't remember if that was your first year with Monster Games or not.
No, we're in year 8. Yeah.
Oh, 8.
No,
okay.
We're in year 8. Yeah.
Got it. So yeah, why don't we go over like Monster Games, the inception of it, and then how it kind of grew.
Absolutely. Well, I think like probably most competitions when they start, you're a gym owner and you're looking around and you're like, man, we really need some new bikes, but there's just no money. And so what are we going to do? And I've been a competitive athlete, throughout my CrossFit career as well. I was just like, hey, let's put on a competition. I feel like we're really good at programming and all that stuff. So I think we can really make something fun. So we actually started as a 4-person comp in our gym in 2017. And it was actually, for a first year event, it was wildly successful. We had over 100 athletes that came and competed. It was just a one-day event. And then we had an opportunity to move it off site in year 2 because we had already outgrown the gym. And so I am a graduate of Missouri Southern State University. I played baseball there. So I reached out to the college and said, hey, this is what we're doing. What would it look like for you guys to open the campus up? Let us come into your facilities and just invite people. We just thought this is going to be in fact, the original name of the competition was the Midwest Monster. Yeah. So a very small name, right? Mm-hmm. Talk about putting yourself pigeoning yourself to not be national, throw the name Midwest in your name. So, sure. But in year 2, we dropped that name. It became the Monster Games, moved off site, went to the college. And that was in 2018 or 2019. Sorry. The competition started in 2018. So 2019 had our first year at the college. That was really cool. Doing an offsite event was crazy, but we doubled the size of the competition in year 2. Dropped the team of 4 but to pairs, and that was kind of seemed to be the most popular thing we had kind of taken a vote about. And there was also another really popular competition called Heart of America team competition in Springfield. That was a team of 4, which that plays into my story a little bit later. But so we switched from teams of 4 to teams of 2 in 2019, went off site. Everything was great. Super excited, signed on for another year at the college. And then I was actually in the Dominican Republic preparing was on spring break trip on a missions trip with my daughter, and she was a senior in high school when the world shut down in March. So we went, we were one of the very last planes to get out. We were the last plane to leave Santiago, Dominican Republic. And the only reason we got out was because we had a specific ticket. It was called a humanitarian ticket on American Airlines. So if you buy a humanitarian ticket, you're guaranteed exit from the country no matter what's happening. So we actually had to call the U.S. Embassy and get us out because they were shutting down the country. And we didn't realize, it was super weird. We didn't realize how bad it was. My wife called and she's just like, hey, we're closing the gym and renting out equipment. And I was like, I just wasn't prepared for that conversation. So I was like, why are we, I was so angry. I was like, why are we closing the gym? This is ridiculous. Not understanding that the entire country was being closed down because we were just out of the loop. We had been gone for 10 days and we're just out of the loop. Excuse me. So we did that. So once I got my bearings that we were actually renting out equipment and closing our gym, I was stressed. We had multiple gyms at that time and trying to figure out how we're going to get people to not quit the gym and come back. So we did all that. We got back into the States. This is like March, did the whole Zoom classes and things like that. And that probably burnt me out a little bit. That was a lot. Anybody that ran a gym at that time, like I have so much respect for everybody that went through that process because it's very difficult. Waking up to emails every morning of cancellation of membership and just carrying that stress around with us was very difficult on our family. I had a daughter that was a senior in high school. I had a daughter that was in 8th grade. That's what we did. I did not have a separate job outside of running the gym. So that was super stressful. So, and Monster Games was starting to grow. And then I get the call, we opened our gym up. We're very fortunate. We're in the Midwest. So we were only closed on, I think whatever the minimum was, like 6 weeks, I think generally was the minimum. So we opened up day one, right back as soon as we could up, full go, everything good. I had to get back to doing that. And so I was pretty anti-COVID, to put it mildly, at this point.
Yeah.
So we got it opened back up, and then planning Monster Games, opened registration, sold out instantly, had to open up more divisions, had to open up more spots, decided we were going to try to do 2 competition floors because we wanted to expand it. And it just really kind of took off. And 5 weeks before Monster Games in July, we get a call from the university saying, hey, there's been a state mandate handed down that there'll be no outside events taking place on our campus. And so, that's another blow when you're already stressed about, we lost probably 35% of our members from COVID that we had not gotten back yet. So we kind of huddled a little bit as a family and just said, hey, what are we going to do and where are we going to go? Is this a sign that this fitness thing is just not going to work? It just put a huge hole in us financially. And we're really struggling to feel like, are we supposed to continue on, or is this just God closing the door? Like what's going on here? And so I have a really good friend, he's a pastor at a church that we were a part of. They had just built a brand new facility, a modern type facility. It's not the old church that you guys are thinking of. No carpet, no hardwood floor. Like this was like a concrete floor, very modern, non-denominational style building.
Big stage, lights, bands.
Yeah, the venue's like a TV studio, right? Yeah. It's like probably the absolute best environment you could have for a competition. Actually was sitting there brand new, and he called me. He just said, hey, and they had been a sponsor of ours in the past. They had supported us. They were members of, we had half the staff was members of our gym. We were in it with these people. And he just called me. He goes, hey, I want to talk to you about something. He goes, because I had already shared with him what happened. He goes, I met with staff and I met with leadership, and I was actually an elder at the time at that church. And he's just like, I met with everybody, not including you. And we have all agreed that we want to open up the building to let you host Monster Games here. And, obviously I was very emotional about that conversation because it kind of felt like the weight of the world got lifted off my shoulders because we were in trouble. We had already received all of the money from everybody. Vendors had already paid, sponsors had already paid. And so we're just like, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna crush us, but we're gonna have to refund everybody's money, even though we had already spent money to host it. And just getting up and going at a competition, you spend tens of thousands of dollars. And so we were at that point. And so just a really big turning point, probably into why I'm even sitting here, was that phone call, because there was no other competitions going on. And so we talked about it, and I was like, well, what does that look like? He goes like, well, here's all we're asking. Like, if you'll back your competition up to start on Thursday and you can get out, on Saturday evening by 5, we will have our janitorial staff come in, and they have all agreed to work overnight and turn the building for church. We had an 8 o'clock service the next morning. Mm-hmm. They were running 3 services at the time. And so I was like, well, I can do that for sure. So we had to communicate with all of the athletes, all of the vendors. Everybody said, hey, the competition now starts on Thursday instead of Friday. We're going to be done at 5 o'clock on Saturday. So we did. And then, man, once I made that announcement, my phone just went bananas with people trying to compete. I mean, I had people you guys wouldn't believe contacted me trying to compete at Monster Games because there was nothing else going on. And I was full. Like there was nothing I could do. I think we added about maybe 10 teams that I just to do it because I felt bad telling people no. So we held the competition. It went off. It was it was an amazing event. And the cool thing for me is, as being a person of faith, like sometimes, we had athletes coming in that, they had their vision of, like, they heard it was at Hope City Church and they had this vision of like what it was going to be. And they walk in and they're like, oh, this is not what like any church I've ever been in before. And I can't believe you're allowing people to do this. And so it was just a really cool experience for people to be able to know that it's not just to come in and be super quiet in church. Like this is a place where people come together, and they were taking care of us and we took care of the facility. The only bad thing that happened was we have a swim event. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm coughing, guys. We had a swim event, and Saturday morning at like 5:30 in the morning, I wake up to a crack of thunder. And I was like, oh no. I mean, it just doesn't usually rain in Joplin, although we've had it rain out twice in Joplin for the swim event. But we wake up to it. And so Steven Tackett and I, he's my co-event director. We get on the phone together, and we're just like, what are we going to do? Like, we're supposed to be out at 5. It's 5:30 in the morning, and there's just a horrible storm going on. We're supposed to start swimming at 6:30. Everybody had already met. They're already up and getting ready. They come out there. It's pouring down rain. There's a rule. You can't be in the water if there's been a lightning strike within 10 miles in the last 30 minutes. Well, a 10-mile radius is pretty big when you're talking about a thunderstorm.
Yep.
So we sat there. We made an announcement, and we're like, hey, everyone, we're going to have to cancel the swim event. We're sorry. We're just going to do the run event. But this is really the option that we have because we have to be out by 5 o'clock. We want to honor our commitment to the church. And this is just what we're going to do. We apologize. We promise we'll swim again next year, but it's just one of those things you have to make. So we made that announcement. I mean, instantly everybody was like, I would rather cancel an event inside than cancel the swim because this, not a lot of events for swimming. And so I got on the phone with the pastor of the church, and I was just like, hey, this is the situation. And he's like, you know what? Just do what you need to do, and we're going to make it work. So we wound up, we were a 3-hour delay, wound up having to swim, going back in and finish the event. We didn't get done until 10 o'clock on Saturday night.
Jeez. Because
we were so far behind. And so, and I'm just like sick to my stomach because I know they've got to turn the church and have it ready for church at 8 o'clock the next morning. But their staff was incredible. The athletes that jumped in to help when the event was over, because we're just like, hey guys, this is what we did. We need help. Like we're not going to leave everybody hanging that gave us an opportunity to come here and compete. The people that stayed and helped pick up and clean, and I don't mean like spray balls cleaning. I just mean like picking up and getting everything out of the way so the janitorial staff could come in and actually clean. it was just one of those moments you're super proud of, because these people aren't part of my gym. I didn't know most of them as far as like on a personal relationship level, and they just stayed and they made that event probably to this day the most unique thing that I think we've ever gone through as a company and as a family. And it was just awesome to see it. And I was humbled by everybody, and it gave me faith in humanity that we're going to be okay. And that really kind of vaulted us into where we are today. And then the following year, we were still not allowed on campus, and the church opened up the building again for a second year. We hosted it there 2 years in a row. And then once we got back to Missouri Southern, we were able to expand everything, and it went bananas. And so we're now at, we just closed registration. We're at 970 athletes for this year.
Yeah. So I think that's like really important details for people like the CrossFit community at large to hear, is like the scale at which Monster Games actually is, and like the vendor stuff. Because personally, like I've come and I've experienced the Monster Games 3 separate times, and seeing it grow from year one, even 3 years ago, whenever I was there for the first time, and then up until last year, has been like crazy to watch the growth. And so people have a lot of questions with the WFP and events and like, how is it going to go? But I think it's important to frame the conversation like, you know what you're doing. You've grown a competition from small to really large. And so why don't we talk over like, what has registration looked like for Monster Games for like even the past just 3 years? And how were you able to scale and make sure that everything worked effectively?
I think the thing to remember is like growth when it comes, if you don't have the vision of what you're going to do when the growth comes and you're not ready, it's just going to crush you. But I mean, honestly, the flow and the operational side of it, my wife and Steven Tackett and I, we sit down and we're just like, hey, this is what I think we're going to hit. And this is the vision that I put in front of them. And then we go get it. And then when we hit it, we're ready. But so I think the first year that you were there was probably 2022. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yep.
So 2022, we had 600 athletes, which was a big competition. 2023, we went to about 700, and then last year we were at about 820. And so even though the growth is like we're at big numbers, like you're talking about adding 120 athletes a year, that's a manageable thing, because we have steadily grown over time, and we have great staff and volunteers that work for us. And when you run a gym, it's different than when you don't run a gym. So it's when you run a gym, a lot of the money from the competition and a lot of the value of what you're building gets put back into the gym. And so you have a lot of help. Last year was our first year that we did not own gyms, and we were on an island. And we just had an executive team that we had put together prior that we just said, guys, we want you to still be a part of it. And so for the first time in Monster Games history, we had a staff that we paid. We paid our head judges, we paid our head floor managers, we paid our head equipment managers, we paid our head setup team, we paid our head of scoring, we paid our head of volunteers, we paid our head of athlete control. So we had a budget that we were able to come to those guys and say, hey, we want you to put your team together, but we're going to pay you. This isn't a volunteer thing anymore. This is a real business. We don't own a gym. This money's not going back into the gym that you guys are part of. We're not part of that gym anymore. And so therefore this kind of becomes a job for you. And so we built that together. So it takes a lot, even though Heidi and I are the only owners of it. We have a lot of people that have stuck by our side through thick and thin. And some of those people I've brought into WFP, to be honest with you, because I trust them. And I know that when the fire comes, and it's going to come, you know, there's nothing that you can do to prepare for the moment that things start breaking. And if you have people beside you that have been through the brokenness before, you just trust they know what to do. And so that's kind of how that process has gone. I don't do this by myself. I've made plenty of mistakes. I'm going to continue to make plenty of mistakes, but I surround myself with people that understand how I think, understand my vision, understand how I react to things. And we kind of work in unison and harmony together through that.
Yeah, each podcast that we've done, you've been super upfront about like making mistakes and like having people help you make mistakes, which I think is a really good leadership quality, to say the least, right? Being able to admit it and then bringing other people on that you can kind of push responsibility off to. How do you, since you're bringing some of these people into the WFP, how have you gone about vetting people into your team that you can trust? Like, what are the qualities that you feel are most important?
Man, that's a great question, because that's probably been the most challenging thing to do. Is I can't bring all of my people along, right? We live in Joplin, and we're going to be having events all over the world. So there's a certain subset of people that I knew I had to have beside me. And then the rest was like, you listen to people that you trust in the space. Our head of athlete control is Maddie Ludwig, who runs, Festivus. She runs athlete control. Well, she was on your guys' podcast. You guys,
we just had her on.
Yeah. So when I was searching for athlete control, like, it was my job to find somebody, and I got it put in my ear that you need to talk to her. And I had one conversation with her, and I knew, right. Call it, intuition or gut instinct or whatever, but like, I just knew when I talked to her, she cared as much about what we were doing as I did. And I don't really have a reason to tell you. I didn't do a background check on Maggie. I talked to people that knew her. I understand what she did with Festivus Games. What she's put together there is incredible. Everybody that I talked to said, you can trust her, and she's going to be the person for you. So it was kind of like that with every head position. As I was talking to them, like, I talked to a few people that I got off the phone, and I was like, I don't know, that's not going to work. I just don't think it's going to work. So it's one conversation at a time. Yeah. And, you go with, I had 8 years experience running gyms and running competitions, and understanding people and leading people and seeing people who are in it for the wrong reason. And, hearing them say a few things, you're just like, I don't know that that's really what we're doing here. So it's just those conversations. So
cool. I think one more touch point on Monster Games that would be an important thing to bring up, it would give value to the listeners, is your relationship with First Form. How did that develop? And will that be continuing on into the WFP possibly?
Sure. Yeah, anything's possible. We're in talks with them. We're in talks with a lot of people, but to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not on that side of WFP. It's not my responsibility, but I have introduced that relationship. I sat in meetings with them. I made that connection. But First Form, look, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today as well if it wasn't for First Form. I think I may have told this story before, but I kind of tricked them into taking a meeting with me. I'm not very far away from them, so I live about 4 hours from First Form HQ in St. Louis, and they had provided a prize packet for me in like 2020, I think, for the first time. And I tried to talk to people that were there about it, like, yeah, you got to get to so-and-so. And I'm like, can I get their number? And like, yeah, we don't really share those numbers. And I was like, can I get their email? Well, we're not supposed to give their email address out. And I'm like, okay, well, I wound up getting the person I needed to talk to, and tried to schedule a meeting. And, it was difficult to get in. And so I finally just kind of tricked them and said, hey, I shot him a text. I said, hey, I'm in St. Louis. I've got a couple hours to kill. I'd love to swing by and see the facility today. And I just want to share my vision with you. And I just want to share my heart a little bit about why I think First Form matters to Monster Games. And he texted me back, said, hey, yeah, he goes, come by about 2. And this was at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was in Joplin. And I was like, so I called my wife, and I was like, oh, you know what? And I was like, I got to get to St. Louis. And so I drove to St. Louis, had to sit down with them, tour the facility, and they did. They listened to me. They let me share my vision of where I wanted Monster Games to go. It's funny because at that time I actually talked about wanting to get more involved with the Masters community, and I really wanted to do something different with what CrossFit was doing for Masters. I wanted to make something unique, and I didn't even know Bob and Joe at this time. It was really funny, but took the meeting, and I left that meeting with a signed agreement to be my title sponsor, which was incredible. And so from that point on, it was amazing. So from that point on, they've been amazing partners. I just left a meeting with First Form last Wednesday on this year's deal. And man, what we're doing for the athletes this year is we have 900, and I think going to have 970 athletes, and we are kitting every athlete out with First Form apparel.
That's cool.
I mean, nobody does that. So if you're an individual athlete, we've always done the elites. We've all like, you know, full sets of everything. We take, I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with treating elite people like elite because they earned it. That's my stance on it. But at the same time, our community is driven from those people that are never going to be elites, but they still spend money with me and they want that experience. So
yeah,
I basically cast the vision to them. I sat down and I said, hey, what does it look like for us to do more for the intermediate athlete, the scaled athlete, the master's athlete? Like what type of investment is that? And, you know, they're like, how many athletes do you have? So I told them, and, you know, we talked through it and they're just like, they said, you know what, let's do it. We're in. And so I walked away from that meeting last week. Like now we've got like a shirt every day for all 970 athletes, a shirt for every judge, a shirt for every day. And so stuff like that is just unique. And I'm always trying to figure out like, what can I do to make the athlete, when they walk in the registration and they go to check in and they pick up their stuff, they feel like it's different. And that's hard year over year. And I feel like we've dropped the ball a little bit with the non-elites. We've crushed the elite athletes. We've raised prize purses. We've decked them out with gear. We've decked them out with product. We've decked them out with everything you can think of, which is great. But we've kind of missed a little bit. And that's a mistake I've made, not understanding where we need to be going with it. And so I just made a priority this year. Like, I'm taking care of everybody. Even if I have to give up something financially, we're going to do that. And First Forum said, we're in. What do you want to do? And so I think what we have planned for everybody when they check in is going to be really cool. I can't wait to see it.
That's freaking awesome, dude. Yeah, you do a really good job at making people feel special when they walk in the door. I mean, even the first year, this is the last thing I'll say about Monster Games, but even the first year, I remember you were like at the entrance and greeting every single person that came in. And like, I was like, who is this guy? And then I figured out that you were the owner. I was like, wow, that's really impressive, because you don't see that even at small scale, like just local affiliate competitions. You don't see that. So kudos to you.
That's my goal. I try to shake everyone's hand and say thank you to all 970 people. And if I don't see him at check-in, I try to find him as best I can. And I just try to tell them thank you, because what we've built is a lot of hard work, but they have to come back. If they don't come back the next year, you're in trouble. Like you can't start from scratch every year. So I'm so appreciative of our athletes and what they've done. So I love it.
That's awesome, man. Let's move into the WFP and get some details about what's going on. So your title is the U.S. event director.
Yeah.
All right. So what exactly are your responsibilities there?
So my responsibilities day one were to find a facility and find a city. Like that was the main goal. I talked to the very first conversation I had with Will. I was actually in Arizona and I was working Legends, and I called him after I'd accepted the position. And I said, hey, I'm Jason. I know you don't know who I am, but I know who you are. And here's what I think we can do. I was like, what can I do for you right now that will make you like calm down? Because what he was building was a massive risk on he put his name on the line. Anybody that puts their name on the line, man, I'll go to war with you anytime, because all you're doing is setting yourself up to have darts thrown at you all day long. And that's what's happened. And so I wanted to protect him, and I wanted to make sure that he knew that I would do anything to make his day better every day. And so he's like, honestly, Jason, he goes, I need a city and I need a venue as soon as possible, because I have athletes that are waiting to sign and they won't sign until they have that down. So he's like, we just have to have that. So that was like day one of what we were doing and what we were setting up. So my first job, I mean, I left Arizona on Monday, December 16th to drive home. And my wife drove, and I spent the entire trip on the phone, just dealing with sports commissions and trying to figure out dates. I mean, when you're in December trying to get a venue for spring, and you're doing your best to not step on anybody else's toes, I guess is the safest way to say it.
Yeah.
And we were trying to make sure we didn't have an event sitting on top of something else that was going on. We wanted to honor the sport that got us here. We wanted to honor the athletes that were a part of it. We wanted athletes to be part of both if that's something that they chose to do. And so when you do that 4 or 5 months out and you're trying to juggle dates and you're trying to juggle all the things that exist, the window becomes real small as to what venues are available in what cities. So that's kind of how we wound up where we were. But that was my job day one, cities and venues. That was it. And then once the cities and venues got selected, site visits, all the ins and outs that go on, like, who's there, just, who's the distributor, like who's there, is Coca-Cola are they the only brand that you can carry? Can you only carry Monster Energy there? Can you not have Red Bull? Can you not have First Form? All of the legalities of all these facilities, they all have distribution contracts signed with vendors. And so just juggling all of that and negotiating contracts as to, sitting down with, Coca-Cola is the distributor and they're the vendor for Grand Park. We're like, well, we have other energy drink companies that we work with. What does this look like? So just a lot of things that people will never see and never understand, that takes a lot of massaging and a lot of hand holding and just a lot of, honestly, constantly vision casting what you're trying to build and why you chose their city and making them feel as guilty as possible for for that. So, you're dealing with venues, the heads and the owners of venues. And sometimes those ownership groups that own venues don't live in those markets. They're owned by companies that are in different cities.
Right.
And so you're dealing with that. And then at the same time, you're dealing with the local sports commission that is fighting for you and trying to go to battle with you. So you have to sidle up next to those guys because they're funded from the hotel business, right? So if you can get heads and beds, then they're your best friend. And so you've got to drive all that traffic to them, and then they help you. And there's grants available. There's just a lot of different stuff that goes into it. And that's, multiplying it out times each city you're going to.
Sure.
So Jason, you said something noteworthy that I really liked hearing. You said that a big part of what you guys are trying to do is honor the sport that kind of got you guys all together and trying to do what you're going to do. From your own just opinion and feeling the temperature of the community, why do you feel like the community feels so worrisome about WFP when we're all good with Wadapalooza existing, Rogue existing, back how Granite Games used to be? Like, the community's always been really good with competitions existing in the space alongside of the games. Why do you feel like the community feels a different temperature with that? What is your sense?
Well, I mean, look who we signed.
Yeah.
But Wadapalooza's had big athletes. Rogue has the top 20 in the games almost.
Yeah, they have one event a year, and it's typically considered off season. We're not off. I guess probably the easy answer to that is we're probably not off season.
Okay.
Probably the easiest answer.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. And we're more than one event. We signed athletes to compete at all three. Look, these athletes don't have to compete at all three events.
Yeah.
Right. But they're putting their pro card and they're putting their contract on the line for next season. There's nothing in their contract that says they have to compete at every event. But it's a point-based system, so it's no different than, if you're playing in the the ATP and you decide to not go play a tennis event and you're down on points, then you're risking that yourself for the end of season championship.
Yeah,
sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Jason, I want to kind of circle back because I know that you said that you agreed to the position in November, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't. I got first approached in November.
Oh, first approach. Okay, cool. So what was like the deciding factor for you? Why did you decide that you wanted to be a part of the WFP in the first place?
There's a lot that goes into that question. Look, I'm a huge fan of CrossFit, of what CrossFit did for me. I started CrossFit when I was 39, and I will say that from the first moment I stepped foot into a gym, I knew I wanted to be part of that community. And what I learned over time, I'm glad I stepped into a gym when I was older and not 20.
Yeah.
Because I was immature when I was 20. Okay. And I think I would have taken everything and learned everything differently than I learned it at 39.
Sure.
So when I walked into a gym at 39, I respected and understood what was happening. Mm-hmm. And so for me, what what changed my life and my family was the community that, and CrossFit was the tool that gave me that community. There's community everywhere, but you've got to find the community that fits you. And once you find the community that fits you, it can change your life. And it did. I'll always say that. I'll always respect that for it. And so, what Greg Glassman started, he sold. I mean, he built it up. He built CrossFit up. He sold it in 2020. He got his money, and he deserved that money for what he built. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where I come into this. And so for me, it was important to not pretend like it hasn't affected me in a positive way. So it was just important to understand when they approached me about coming on with WFP, like, what was it that made me okay with it? And the truth of the matter is, like, even though CrossFit has done amazing things in the space, and it doesn't mean that where they are today is perfect. No different than where WFP today is perfect. So we've got to make a decision as to, are we going to build things better, or are we just going to repeat what's been done? And I believe when they pitched me the idea of what they were trying to accomplish, I believe that they were looking to build things better. And I bought into that. And I believe that today. I believe that they're trying to do something in the space that is focused on making things better, and it's being built. We have one block down. The house is not done. And I think it's very important to understand that, like, what WFP looks like today is not what it's going to look like in 5 years. And that's going to take transition. It's going to take us understanding that, and it's going to take us being willing to change direction when it needs to be changed, and to hear criticism and listen to the criticism. Is it just anger criticism, or is it legitimate? Like, is this legitimate? Like, hey, that actually makes sense. We need to look at that. Yeah. And that is so hard to do. It's not easy to do, but I believe that what Will and his team put together, like, I believe that they have the best interest of the athletes and the community at heart, and getting there is going to ruffle feathers, and it's going to be hard. Like, it's not easy. They're great people. I mean, Will Morad is a great person. Jackson Terry and his wife Isabella are amazing people. Ryan Husband and Maggie are amazing people. Like, if you know them, you're going to like them. Have a 5-minute conversation with them, and you're going to love them. Saxon Panchik is a great man. He's a good man. And so every conversation I had with them, I'm just like, I can be part of this team and believe in what they're doing. And it doesn't take away from the path that I've taken to get here. I don't have any vitriol about anybody. It's just different.
So did they, Jason, did they have a vision before you showed up of what the first year success looked like? Or did you get brought in to help build that, like, hey, this is what 1 year for us looks like for a building block for the future?
Yeah, they did. That was part of the reason why I was so excited, because I was like, to see what they had laid out before they even had an event director hired, I was impressed, because I know what it takes to build it. And, there's things I disagreed with. And that's actually why we didn't connect when they first approached me about the job in November. One of the things I didn't necessarily agree with what they were doing wound up changing. And so it opened up the conversation for me to be back in the conversation. So, and I thought that was super impressive, because they don't know me from anybody. And I kind of gave my opinion on something. We talked through what they thought the vision for this season looked like. And I'm like, I'll be honest with you, I don't think you guys need me right now for where you're wanting to go. I don't know that I'm the guy to help you get to that position, because they're going to be a little bit more international based, not as much US based. And I'm just like, I can't help you internationally. Like, that's just not who I am. I might become good at that, but I'm definitely not good at it today. And so they kind of changed. Once they wound up decided to have 2 events in the US, they reached back out and they said, hey, this is kind of what we're doing. And I was like, okay. I'm in. Let's continue the conversation. And so when we first they listened to what I said. They didn't get upset with me. They didn't disagree with me. They just kind of took it as information. There was like a 3-week break between when I heard from them last. And so we were here in Arizona, and my wife and I obviously had talked through everything. And I said, I don't think it's going to be a fit. I was going to have to resign from Legends, which I respect Bob Jennings and Joe Linton so much. They're friends of mine. I didn't want to quit. I was in the Masters CrossFit space, and I loved it. I loved what they were building. I loved that CrossFit gave them the reins to go run something, and I thought it was cool. I was really honored to be part of that. I didn't want to quit. Like it was going to take a lot for me to quit. And I'm not talking about a lot money-wise. I'm talking about a lot vision casting for the future to where I felt like the sport was going. And so when they reached back out, I mean, I was here to work at Legends. And so, it was kind of like I had to look at Joe and I had to say, hey man, like, thanks for everything you did for me, but this is what I think I'm supposed to go do. This is what they've offered, and I can't do both. I hope I'm not leaving you in a bad spot, because I what you guys have done for me and give me the opportunity to be part of the sport and the space has been incredible. Monster Games is a qualifier for Legends. It's helped my Masters division grow. My Masters division's insane. Like for a regular everyday competition, my Masters division is ridiculous. It's so crazy.
You guys even bring in the Desert City Classic champ. I think that's so cool. You guys work with the other platform.
We do. And I've tried to work with others, and sometimes it doesn't work out for other reasons, but I think we should all be feeding off of each other personally. That's just my opinion. But so yeah, when that all happened, I had a conversation with Joe, and it was tough, man. It was emotional. I'm a fairly emotional guy. I kind of wear my heart on the sleeve a little bit. And Joe just he took a step back and he looked at me, and he's just like, dude, he's like, I'm so proud of you. Nobody deserves it more than you. And he gave me a big hug. And so I left really well. I left Legends really well. Joe and I text each other to this day if he needs something. He just sent me somebody that was wanting to do more in the space, and he sent me a lead for somebody that's wanting to do some at Monster Games. And I just respect those guys. I would argue with anybody over what their agenda is and their ability to run a competition and the Masters division's in good hands. I would argue with anybody over that they're doing the right thing, those two guys specifically. So that was tough, man. So it was going to take a lot for me to leave that. So I think if there's a message to know is like, until you have a conversation with the owners of WFP, you're not going to understand. Like, there's just no way to know, and that's okay. It's just it's going to take time. That stuff should be built over time. It shouldn't just be instant. Oh, we're on your team and we're all good. Like, I get it. That's okay. I'm perfectly fine with us building that over time, because it should be, respect should be earned, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you said earlier that community was like the aspect of CrossFit that like really changed your life. I'm wondering, is that something that you guys are hoping to build within the WFP too? Like your own separate community, that type of thing? Well,
I don't like to use the word separate. Okay. But I mean, I understand the question, but I wouldn't throw the word separate in there. I mean, do we want to build a community, and is some of that community going to be built around the same people that grew up in this space? I mean,
it's all the same sport.
It's the same sport, right? Yeah. I mean, there was the AFL before there was the NFL, right? And so I think it's okay. I think that if both parties are going to exist, then you're going to wind up with two strengthened units versus one, dulled unit, because you're going to sharpen each other, make each other better. And if CrossFit's going to respond and do something really cool and really good that the community loves, then we're going to have to be better. We're going to have to do something better. If we do something that's better and the community loves, and if CrossFit's going to exist, then they have to be better. And I think that's okay.
100%. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Absolutely.
Was that something that you guys had to talk about then in your meetings with, initially this was for elite athletes that were moving away from the space, to have a platform and then bringing a community aspect in?
The community aspect has always been wanted to grow, but you don't just grow community because you throw 40 elite athletes at it, right? Yeah. It's a base, so we want to grow that aspect of it, but it's going to take time. And I when I started Monster Games, I didn't start with 900 athletes. Like, you just don't. You have to build it over time. You have to give somebody a reason to come back. You have to give somebody a reason to try it, and you have to give somebody a reason to come back. And there's no Instagram ad in the world that you could run to make people super juiced up and excited about it. There's no amount of money you can throw at it to make people want to do it. They're not going to do it because it's time. You're giving up time, and there's nothing more valuable than time. And so I respect everyone's time when they come to my events. And so if they're going to sign up and pay money and spend travel, and their family's going to come, they're going to take off work, and they're going to eat food, and they're going to stay in a hotel, I owe them a lot.
And that's why you guys picked the 50 for the foundation, for the affiliate. Like 50 was a good number to start off on, and then eventually it'll open up.
Yes. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about that side. Like, I'm in those meetings, but I'm not in those meetings, if that makes sense. So I know enough to understand what the vision is, but I am not in the day-to-day grind. There's no way I can be in the day-to-day grind of that. There's just too much. They're a separate business model. At the same time, we want to feed off of each other, but I'm going to be probably answer poorly on giving you guys the answers you want on the fitness project side of things. I just know that what they're building is intentional, and that they believe that they can offer gyms an opportunity to be better and to help them.
So you initially said that you initially came to the table and you weren't necessarily all in on it. Was that predominantly just the domestic versus international volume of where the competition's being held? Or was there something else that you were like, I don't know if I'm down with that, and they came back to the table in a more collaborative sense?
No, that's a great question. I didn't know. I was juiced up and excited about what they were doing. My issue with it was I didn't think I fit, because they were going to be so international based in year one. And so it kind of sucked. I knew I wanted to continue the conversation, but at some point I was just like, I don't think I'm your guy to help you. I don't think having only one event in the US is going to be the way to do year one. I go, that's my opinion. I can't tell you why, other than it's just, I feel like we need to have more events in the US starting out before we grow. And so I don't think I'm your guy right now. And so when they switched that model around is when they called me back.
Cool.
So in terms of like, and you might not be the guy to ask for this either, but I'm just going to ask you anyway, in terms of, because I agree with what you guys are doing on the athlete side, like offering salaries. I think it's an amazing thing, and giving them money. Why do you think that that's like an important thing to do for the functional fitness athletes, the CrossFit athletes?
Rephrase that question again.
So I guess I'll say it like this. I think personally that the CrossFit athletes are deserving of income, right? Are deserving of money. So I personally think that the model that CrossFit has been like lacking on, right? And I know that I'm going to get heat for this, but personally, I think that CrossFit athletes should be given money to do the sport, because people want to spectate. People want to see them perform at a high level. In order to do that, they need to be guaranteed some sort of money. Otherwise, they're going to be working jobs and not be able to put their full focus into the sport. Right?
100%.
It's just like I keep comparing it to like fighters. Like fighters and CrossFitters have really similar jobs, in the sense that like even on a $70,000 salary, a fighter is spending every single dime of that into his job rather than actually being able to live. So you'll see fighters living in really shitty apartments and like eating crappy food on a $70,000 budget, because they give everything to their craft. And I think the same thing of CrossFitters. So why do you think that it's important, if you do at all, to like guarantee income for the elite athlete?
I mean, that's what we're trying to create. Like, we want to professionalize the sport. We want to create an actual season that, I mean, if you look at what we're doing for the top 40, it's pretty incredible. And I'm shocked people don't talk about it. I just don't understand. I don't know. I don't get it. But if you're a signed athlete, now maybe it's like they feel like they're elitist or whatever, but we had to start somewhere, right? Like everyone's going to argue, everybody has their opinion about the 40 signed athletes. That's fine. It's all going to shake itself out in 2026 anyway, because you got to earn it. But in year one, those 40 athletes immediately don't have to pay registration fees, which everyone has to pay, and others, and when if you go to the CrossFit Games, it's expensive, right? If you go to semifinals, you're not making any money. It's expensive. We have a prize purse that pays the top 30 at every event. We take care of travel and lodging and registration fees. I can't believe I can't believe that like showers from heaven aren't coming down because of the model we're putting together, because we are trying to professionalize the sport so a pro athlete can be a pro athlete, and it's better for the brands. Let's just say you're, sponsored by a smaller company that has to fork over money for you to travel. They have to fork over money for your registration fees. They try to give you a little bit of money for food. And on top of that, they're gearing you out, right? So now your sponsor is spending all of their money on all of your expenses, and maybe they're not even covering all of them. Well, now how more attractive are you to a brand?
Yeah, for sure.
If you can go to that brand and say, hey, my registration is covered, my flight is covered, my lodging is covered, this is what I need from you moving forward. And man, if I'm a brand, I'm pretty excited about that, because now I can actually support the athlete instead of the athlete's sport.
100%.
And I think that's the coolest thing about the whole thing.
Yeah, because and I think that sometimes people forget that, like, how niche CrossFit actually is, and even more niche is the companies that are involved. So like the athlete sponsors, they're not like making tens of millions of dollars a year where they can afford to like pay athletes a really nice like salary per month in order to do all the things that they need to do, right? A lot of these athletes, correct, if I were to guess, are probably making between 500 to like 3K a month, depending on their status or whatever, and what companies are sponsoring them.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that what you guys are doing too is a really cool thing in terms
of, and we're wrapping the media around them, and we want them to grow. We want them to grow their presence with brands. And so, that's why we're spending a lot of money on media. Like, we want the athletes to be recognized. We're following them around. We're sending cameramen to all of these athletes' cities, and we're doing a lot. Like, we're spending a lot of money because we believe, and that was another reason why I signed on, because I know the runway for us to grow and make this successful is long. It's not short. And I think that's something that the public probably doesn't grasp, and the people that are pretty much think we're going to be a flash in the pan don't probably understand is that our runway is pretty long, and this is going to be around. And I mean, I get it. I would, if I wasn't on the inside, I'd probably question the same thing. So it's not that I don't understand why the questions are there. I just think some of the positives from the league and how they're created, I think, are being pretty overshadowed as to what we're offering the athlete.
For sure. So in terms of brands too, on that topic, do you guys have like brands that are partnering with you already? If so, are you able to share? Because I know that probably is partially you, right? Because you're the event director.
I am zero part of the brands.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is the best part for me, because brands, like, that's what I did for the Masters CrossFit Games. That's a full-time job by itself, period. There's so much that goes into it. But no, Ryan Husband is heading up our brand partnerships. He's dealing with all of that. And do we have brands? Yes. Can I announce them? No. Obviously, I'm not going to break that news. Ryan would kill me if I did that. But when we do have some signed, we do have some in the queue ready to go, and we're going to be rolling those out. We want to focus on the qualifier right now. We want to focus on making those challengers that are competing in the qualifier, which launched last night at 8 o'clock, by the way, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time it launched. So we want to focus on that. We don't want to take away, we don't want to launch like a brand today and take away from what the challengers are trying to accomplish. But it'll all be rolling out soon.
Sure. That workout with the rowing, the shuttle runs, the burpees.
It's so bad.
It looks nasty, but it looks like my wheelhouse. I kind of just want to give it a go just for fun.
I mean, look, if you guys look at the athlete that Will is, right? Like, he's extremely fitness based, and that's a fitness workout.
Yeah.
You're not getting past that workout if you're not fit. So
right. Yeah. Cool. So how involved is Will in everything? Like, where does he sit?
I mean, Will and I just got back from the world tour in Sweden and Denmark. So Will and I are attached at the hip. That's awesome. So I don't do anything without Will knowing it. And generally, he doesn't do anything without me knowing it. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he has to ask my permission. So right. Will, don't hear me say that. But we've developed a very unique relationship. So it's very interesting how I've been prepared for this, because I met Jacob Hepner about 8 years ago. And Jacob Hettner's kind of, man, him and Will are so similar as far as personalities and people, and just who they were in the space as far as the type of athlete they were. And I've developed a very, very strong friendship with Jacob over the years. And, I'm going to spend the night at Jacob's house here in a couple of weeks and train with him in the gym and do some stuff for Monster Games and Desert City Classic. And I've already started developing that similar relationship to Will, and there's a lot of similarities between those two dudes are just such good people in this space. I wish more people knew who Will was as a person, who his wife is, what he's done for the sport. I don't even know that I really understood it until I've been around him. I mean, I was very fortunate when the week that we went to Denmark and Sweden, I got to go to his gym and I got to do the, whatever that was, 25.1. I got to do 25.1 with Will and Brooke Wells, cool. Which is pretty cool. She was doing her redo. And so Will's like, hey, I'm gonna pace you. I'm gonna jump in. He goes, Jason, go get loose. We're gonna pace Brooke. Well, I was not gonna pace Brooke. Will was going to pace Brooke.
Because you crushed her, right? You didn't
I did not crush her. There's probably video of that somewhere I don't want out in the public. But I would probably make Hiller's page by some of my reps. But so I mean, just to watch him selflessly at the drop of a hat go do something like that is I don't know. It's just, I wish more people could see it. That's all. I got to watch him coach classes in Sweden in gyms he'd never been in where English wasn't their first language. And I just saw him love on people that I just wasn't prepared to see. It's just hard. But again, I think time will bring all that to the surface. Will's the director of sport. I mean, he's the man. Mm-hmm. He is the one that wrote the workouts. I sat down with him. I gave him my feedback on him. But this is Will. These are Will's workouts. Anything I tweaked was just from a standpoint of like, hey, this is going to cause a problem for online purposes. It had nothing to do with the test of fitness. It was more of things that are going to hang us up, things that are tough to judge, stuff like that. So when I changed things on the workouts, it had nothing to do with the test of fitness. It was all just aesthetics and making sure that it flowed well.
Cool.
So Will is director of sport. Can we just quick go over Ryan Husband and the other people that are involved and what their roles look like so we can better understand who good questions are directed towards?
Absolutely. So Ryan Husband he's brands, period. That's his brands partnerships. He lives and breathes the contacts with brands, and he's been traveling all over, honestly, the globe, meeting with people and getting things set for the season. So that's him. His wife, Maggie, she's really headlong into the fitness projects. She's been putting all of that together. So that's hers. Jackson and Isabella. Jackson Terry's our director of operations. So he's handling weaving media, making sure live stream is like top notch, doing all that stuff. So, and then his wife she initially started out kind of, I would have to get onto her because she tried to do everything. And I'm like, hey, you can't do that. That's not how this works. You're going to have to focus on something that you're good at and go do it. And we're going to have to hand things off because she's extremely talented. And she was doing a lot of social media stuff before. And when you're extremely talented and you can kind of just pick things up and do everything, it's hard to hand work off to people. But over the last month, she's done a great job of saying, okay, I can't, I'm at my capacity. We need to do this, and we need to hire social media help, and we need to hire media help. And so that's kind of the roles there, and what the team looks like.
What is Saxon's role?
So Saxon is he's on the he's basically on the gym side of things, so the fitness project side of things too. I mean, Saxon's in the car traveling and visiting gyms across the country. I mean, that's what he's doing. Wow. He's going and showing. Yeah, it's hard work, man. I mean, this isn't pick up your phone and say, hey, I'm Saxon Panchik. That's not what he's doing.
Yeah.
We have a site visit in Indianapolis, April 10th. And he's spending 3 days in the Indianapolis market. He's going to visit every gym in Indianapolis and just say, hey, this is who we are and what we're doing. Do you want to have a conversation? That's what he's doing. He's finding out what's the sticking point of your gym? What do you see as a shortcoming? How can we help? Is the package that we're showing of interest to you? Does this warrant a further conversation? how big is your gym? You know, how are we doing financially? All of those things. I mean, that's Saxon's job. I don't want Saxon's job. I've been a gym owner before, and I could take 2 hours of his time, and I don't know if he could solve my problems, right? So he's got a tough job, but he's young and he believes in it as well. And of course, I mean, Saxon Panchik is, I mean, he's gold. I mean, you're not going to find a lot of people talk bad about Saxon.
Saxon's joining of World Fitness Project, I think, was probably the hiring that turned the most heads, because Saxon, even post games, has been on other podcasts and has spoken very much of like, I still eat, sleep, and breathe CrossFit. I'm all for sport, this, and this. And so seeing him go to World Fitness Project, I think, for me at least, I'm starting to now think about it in the sense of, I think Saxon thinks that this is the future of the sport, and he can do the most good with World Fitness Project compared to being just an athlete or on a board regarding CrossFit, like HQ.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And Saxon's very pro sport, but he's also said he wished this model was around 6 years ago. You know, when he was 21 or 7 years ago.
Does he still own Cliffside?
The gym?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Scott owns a gym in Cleveland.
Yeah. Mentality.
Yeah. So, I mean, Saxon is, I mean, dude loves to talk. He will, he'll talk to gym owners all day long, and I love it. It's great. I'm too old to do that.
I'm still in it. So I'm 37, year 5 only my affiliate, but yeah.
So it's, I mean, I have respect for every single gym owner that exists. And, you know, you don't have to be a Fitness Project gym for us to be friends, right? That's not what we are. We want to, look, I learned this in high school economics. You know, you find a need and fill it. That's it. So, and I look at this and I was like, I don't think we would have existed if there wasn't a need to fill. And I feel like we're filling it. From sports side, and then from the gym side, I think there's things that we can help, and I think there's gyms that we can't help, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think the holes are that you'll help fill in terms of the affiliates?
Well, again, I don't want to speak out of turn because I'm not. Yeah. I can't sit here and pitch you fitness projects, right, for why you should be a fitness project gym. But I know the people that are behind it, and I know the work that they put into it, and I know that they're listening to gym owners. So what exists today is not what's going to exist tomorrow, because we're like an amoeba. We're gonna shape ourselves to the community and what they need.
Got it. So for the event side, what does the season look like right now? Like, how many events are there, and what are like ticket sales like? Like, what do you expect in terms of like spectators and stuff?
That's $1 million question, right? Who knows? I have no idea.
I want to go.
We'll go buy a ticket.
Yeah. When is the first one?
The first one is May 9th, 10th, and 11th. So we're 3 days.
Where at?
For Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We are at Grand Park Sports Campus in Westfield, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis.
Okay, that's not that far, actually.
No, it's not. And the venue's cool, man. It's an indoor soccer complex. It has 3 full-size soccer fields, turf inside. We're building out a stadium inside around one of the floors for the pro floor. So the events, you know, take place in there. We're live streaming. Everything's going to be live streamed.
Cool.
Our live stream team is, that's a space I have not known a lot about. I don't live stream monsters, so I've learned a lot about live streaming, and holy cow, that takes a lot to get an event live stream and to look how we need it to look, right? Yeah. Like we need it to look the best.
Big team.
It's a big team. Yeah. So that's part of my job, is booking hotels for everybody and making sure we have blocks for the team. Our media team is a big team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you have 3 events for the year so far, right?
Yes. We have 3 events for the year. And then the second event takes place in Mesa, Arizona, at the Arizona Athletic Grounds in Mesa, Arizona, which is a facility built for sport, which is, when people see this place, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And it is over Labor Day weekend. Yes, we know it's hot in Arizona in the summer, but we are inside air conditioning, so never fear. We're not going to put anybody in that position. So it'll be hot outside. It'll be air conditioned inside.
Cool. And you'll have to enlighten me with this. Is this all just elites that compete?
Well, so everything in Indiana. So how it's set, like right now, if you guys don't know, in order to get to Indy, there's 20 signed, and I'm just going to talk about one sex, but this is doubled for the sexes. So there's 20 elite athletes signed. Then we have the Challenger qualifier going on right now. And so the top 30 of the challenge, whoever gets in the top 30 after video review, and yes, we are doing a video review. So after video review, the top 30 will get an invite to Indianapolis. The place 1 through place 10 of those 30 are competing as pros.
Okay.
So they're competing. They can win first place of the whole event, right? And then 31st place through 50th place are still competing for points on our point series, but the highest they can get is 31st place.
Got it. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So for a quick hypothetical for context, so say if Colton Mertens is doing the online qualifier, Colton qualifies for the event. Is there a ceiling to how much Colton can win as a non-signed athlete?
Well, yeah. Until he gets his contract, his ceiling is the value placed on each position that he would win. So if he wins first place at the first event, I think it's whatever $30,000 or whatever. So that's what he can win.
So
Tommy Marquez was quoted. Tommy Marquez was quoted saying something that non-pros couldn't make money, and I think that got misinterpreted by the community a lot. So that clears that up.
That would definitely be a misinterpretation, and that's okay. That's going to happen.
Yeah, cool.
But yes, absolutely. That's what that's for. So if Colton comes in and gets first place in event 1 and 5th place in event 2, he's going to qualify for the championship in Copenhagen, and he's going to compete at Copenhagen as a pro. And if he, at the end of the season, is in the top 20 in total points earned, he will get a pro card for 2026. And he'll be a signed athlete, and that contract will have a cash value to it.
So, okay, let me ask you this. So people can take other people's pro cards?
Absolutely.
Dude, I love that.
Exactly. This is my whole point.
Yeah.
Like, it's a merit-based system. So just because you're signed this year, like everybody's like throwing a fit about some of the people that are signed, like, oh, this guy's ranked ahead of this guy's, like, man, I get it. There wasn't a perfect system, right? We basically did the rogue leaderboard. It had 4 wild cards. That's how it started generically. But again, you got to earn it for next year. This is year 1. So, after on Monday, December 22nd, when Copenhagen, the championship is over, we're going to know who the top 20 athletes are. We're going to know what athletes lost their card.
Yeah.
And we're going to know what athletes took cards. And what a cool story. I personally think that the way that we're doing the system, of course, who gets first is always cool, right? But I think more importantly is like who gets 20th.
Yeah.
Who gets 20th and who gets 21st and by how much? And like, what does that do to them? Does that motivate them? Are you gonna be a real pro athlete now and go focus on getting your card back and all of that stuff? To me, I think is hands down what this sport is supposed to be.
Yeah.
You can win the Copenhagen event and not get first overall in the season. So you guys understand that, right? It's more like an actual tour season. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a points-based system.
So one thing that I think that you guys have been getting flack on that I never really understood is some people are like, why do the athletes deserve to get paid? Which is like an interesting question in the first place. We kind of went over it in the beginning, but now it's like you guys are actually saying there's no like deserving, there's no guarantee. It's just these first like 20 from each sex. And now it's a dog fight to actually get that money, which I think is like, dude, I didn't know that. I think that that's amazing.
Right. That's the whole point of the whole system works around that point of it's competitive from 1 through 20. Right. Like you're fighting for, if you're going to be the top 20 in the world, you should have to fight for it and you have to keep it. And then if you get that pro card for 2026, man, think about the pressure valve that gets released for your training now and your travel and your money and you're just planning out your season. All of that. Like we're going to have our season released for 2026 way in advance of anybody else in the space.
Yeah.
Nice.
Justin,
Kinda
I think some
soccer.
context for you, Justin, is if we look at how the sport grew up, and I know that you haven't been in the sport as long, and it's not your bread and butter, but if you look at how the sport evolved, no one really did compete as a full-time athlete, really up until maybe I would say Rich, and then Matt took full-time to a completely new level. So to make the comparison of CrossFit to UFC, what we have similar is that we're infancies of our sports. But the WFP model for paying salaries does make sense. And now it fits the athlete profiles that exist today. 15 years ago, that would have been silly because we're just throwing names at a rotating carousel of athletes because they all have different jobs and lifestyle factors that would play into their consistency and ability to be year over year competitors.
Yeah, because like before it was kind of like how Monster Games is now, right? Like it's just like you're signing up for a competition, or you're qualifying for this competition, and you go basically to have a good time. You go to have fun. But now with the evolution of the sport of CrossFit or functional fitness, I don't know if we can use CrossFit when we're talking about WFP or whatever. With the evolution, if people do want it more professionalized, if people want to see more from these athletes, then yeah, I mean, it makes sense that all of this happens, that we get salaries out there and try to get bigger sponsors and what have you. So yeah. Sweet. Okay. So then Jason, for like the upcoming years, because you said that you kind of have like a vision for everything, right? Do you guys plan on like making an extended season? Like, are there going to be more competitions throughout the year? Are you going to give more people, like you said, 35, right, through 20? Are you going to give them chances to win things or to get purses, or how does this whole thing look?
35 through 20. What did you say there? 35 through what?
35 through 20, or you said how many people actually win a prize purse?
First through 30.
First through 30. Oh, okay.
So 1 to 10 are pros, and 11 to 30 are not technically pros, but they're still eligible to make money, right?
No, 1 to 20 are signed pros.
Okay.
21 to 30 are pros. They just earn their spot through the qualifier. Cool. They're competing as pros. Okay. There's no such thing as a pro challenger. The pro challenger is basically going on right now. Like the challenger division is going on the qualifier. But once that gets laid out and 21st place through 30th place are competing in Indy, they're pros.
Got it.
Just 20 of them are under contract.
Sure. Yep. So then will you guys be doing more competitions throughout the year going forward? How does that
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, right? We had to expand the season. We're still, Will is, he understands tour sports really well. He was a professional soccer player, so he gets that whole thing of how you compete. And, he's got a lot of people that he knows that have been in the pro tennis and pro golf side of things and how point tours work. There's not a perfect system, but this is a good system. I would say that it's probably the best way. So to answer your question, yes, there will be added events. We don't know how many because you can't overdo the season as well. Right. You got to make sure that you're not overdoing it, but at the same time, we can totally see this developing into a place where maybe there's 5 events and we take the top 3 scores to go to the championship, right? You can use your points that way. So that way you're not stuck competing in all of them, which is going to do what? It's going to open the door for more people to compete and more people to earn points. Because if you see a professional golf tournament, Tiger Woods not competing in all of them. He's doing his majors and then he's doing the other events throughout the year that he picks and chooses. And he knows what has value and points for FedEx Cup standings and all of those things, right? So they're all assigned point values. We're going to be doing the same thing. So it's going to be a matter of the athlete paying attention to their tour season and keeping track of their points and talking to their coach and their agent and manager, whoever they need to talk to about, okay, what's important here? What do I need? How many points? Where am I? Where am I in the standings? Am I, do I need to go to this event to make sure I get X number of points? Am I okay to sit the top because I crushed last weekend? All of those things are going to be eventually what we become. And I think it's the coolest part about the whole thing is the expansion of the season, the expansion of the people that are going to be able to come in and grow this thing. We've got to turn over talent, and that's how you do it.
So do you think, maybe you guys aren't there yet, but is there going to be, because they're on contract, they're on salaries or stuff and whatever, do you think that you are going to require X amount of events from the athlete per year?
It takes care of itself, right? I mean, if you choose to not compete, that's your risk, not mine.
Yeah, true. Cool. All right. So I think what would be cool to do now, Jason, if you got some time, if we could like open it up to the Q&A, to a Q&A
Oh,
for the
no.
live chatters.
Okay.
Are you cool with that?
Of course. Absolutely.
All right, sweet. So you guys, if you have any questions, feel free, or Logan already pulled it up. Is the WFP concerned about the low number of community registrations so far?
How is that name pronounced, Justin?
I'm good.
I mean, concerned. It's our first event, year one. I mean, Monster Games had 100 athletes. We're already over that, so I think we're winning.
Cool.
I mean, if you guys thought we are gonna have 1,000 athletes in community division, like that, just because we had spots for a certain number, like we have to build your guys' trust. We totally understand that. We're not afraid of that at all.
I think it's cool that you're like forthright about that too. Like you're not like expecting to absolutely crush the first year, which to be honest, I think that you guys probably will as it goes on, but that you're like, we have to earn the trust. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And I think the community is not uproar isn't the right word, but as the community, I don't think the community doesn't want WFP to succeed in any way, shape, or form. But we've seen these really cool things pop up in the space previously, and we've seen them struggle like Grid in the past. So obviously, I'm not asking you guys to open up your P&L statements and see what you guys truly think is viable, but you truly feel like you guys have a long-term plan that's sustainable. The games itself, Greg admitted, costed $15 to $30 million to run that. So we have an idea of what costing looks like. Obviously, you guys know that. So if you feel confident that you guys have the finances, I think that's the big question that the community at large is wondering. Obviously, it's not your job to show us all the financials, but you sound like you have confidence that there is enough finances to sustain something 3, 5, 8 years, because we know that year one, it's not going to just be crushing.
That's correct. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't believe that the plan we have put together required year one to just absolutely crush it financially. I wouldn't be sitting here.
And we said the same thing about the Open too, and everybody waits to the last second to sign up for everything. No one waits. No one does it in advance anyway. So like you guys still have 6 more days of the first qualifiers to be due till 25th, right? So
honestly, I'm not even worried about it. I don't. The people that show up and compete, like they're gonna go back and tell everybody, you guys should have done this. Like it was fun. That's the whole point, right? And that's how it grows. I would rather grow organically anyway.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so TR says, why are the top 10 and 11 through 30 challengers separated at the tour events? Why not let all of them compete for the same points? The qualifier result is not that important.
Well, the qualifier result is important if you want to get in and compete. I mean, there's only 30 spots for men and 30 spots for women, so I don't understand that part of the question. But if he's wanting to know why place 31 through 50 don't have the same point value as 1 through 30, well, they just stagger down accordingly. So we had to cut a line somewhere financially to make it work financially, right? I mean, there is money. So we're paying the top 30 people. I don't really understand.
That's a lot of people to pay.
That's a lot of people. So, in order to make this work and allow 31 through 50 to compete, like they're there to earn points. So let's say you get 32nd at Tour Event 1, and then you become an actual pro in Tour Event 2 and do well at the event, you can qualify into the finals. No, we've done the math. You can qualify in. You don't have to be a pro in both events to make the final.
Cool. I think that should clear.
I think the point break is like, someone will probably fact check me here, so I'm going off the top of my head. I think 30th place is 270 points, and then 31st is 240. So I mean, it's not ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, so this guy again, will
Sugan.
the pro?
I think it's pronounced Sugan.
Sugan, yeah, Sugan. Will the pro and challenger workouts be the same?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, cool. Kenneth DeLapp, our boy from day one. It sounds like back in the day, WWF versus WCW, guaranteed contracts, all that same stuff.
Is that a question or a statement?
He's just stating that, I guess. Barbell spin. How will more events next year impact all the off-season comps? It's a good question.
I mean, I think that depends on who the offseason. I mean, are you talking about Monster Games? Are you talking about Wadapalooza? I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. But I mean, I understand the question, but there's a lot of off-season events. So I own 2 off-season events, and so I understand that question. But I guess if it's pros that you're talking about, how is it going to affect the pros? I mean, there may be some events that people have to make choices on. We don't have the 2026 season set yet. So, but as we put events in and put the 2026 season together, we're doing it based on what fits well for our calendar.
And probably too, well, Jason, you tell me if I'm wrong, like you want to compete with the other events. You want to put on a better event, probably that they want to go to yours too, right? Or is that not the case?
Say that again.
So like if they had to choose between Wadapalooza and you probably want to put on such a good event that they're going to choose you rather than the other off-season events anyway, correct?
I mean, yeah, if we're not any good, people aren't going to do our events.
Right.
I mean, look, we're not out to try to compete against Wadapalooza or anything. So we're mindful of what's going on. And we have to make good business decisions for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, making good business decisions for ourselves means when we're going to certain markets and choosing cities, and, if you're going to have an extra event or 2 in the season, like there's no way to put those events in the season that aren't going to be rubbing up against other comps. It's just not possible.
Right. If Wadapalooza came to you guys and said, hey, instead of us fighting for athletes to compete, and Wadapalooza say wanted to become a tour event, like, would that be a collaborative environment you'd be all right with?
I mean, I think we would answer the phone call for anybody that wanted to have a legitimate conversation like that, because to not listen to voices that large in the space would just be silly.
Okay.
How will contract amounts be determined for 2026 from the barbell spin?
I don't handle the athlete contracts.
Do you know whose bread and butter that would be?
It's a collaborative effort between ownership. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. TR, when is the deadline for community division sign up?
March 31st. Is that right? I don't have all my stuff in front of me. Something like that. The end of this month, I believe.
Cool.
I don't know if you guys could pull that up there and put it on screen or not, but
yeah, Logan, if you can find that, that'd be cool. Kenneth Delap, is there a chance to ever see a mega fitness festival with CrossFit, WFP, and High Rocks all in the same place? That'd be pretty sweet. Like the Arnold Classic. Remember when like the CrossFit stuff used to go to the Arnold Classic?
I do.
That sounds very much like what Wadapalooza is trying to do. Sounds like they got High Rocks one weekend. They got CrossFit, Functional Fitness another.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I think we would take any phone call from anyone and talk to them. I mean, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, that'd be sweet. That would push the sport forward. Honestly,
we are for pushing the sport forward, and I think our message is pretty clear. We're trying to create a tour season to help the athletes lay their season out where they can become professional athletes and schedule their years out. And that's what we're trying to do. Now that's going to bounce all over the place from where you're at in the space and where you're at in your career. Are you a perennial top 10 athlete that you feel pretty confident, or are you fighting for it? Like, it's going to all matter, because you're going to have to make decisions where you're going to put your time and effort. I do believe if you put your time and effort in trying to make the top 20 WFP athlete, I think that you will benefit from that long term.
Okay. Yeah, because I gotta ask this question. I don't know if you guys know, but isn't Grid League still at the Arnold Classic? Don't they still go? Do you guys know?
They're predominantly in Florida.
I don't think so. I don't think Grid was at Arnold Classic, but I think the
Arnold Classic has had maybe IFW. There's another functional fitness brand competition, the IFW. I think one of those did participate at the Arnold's.
Okay. Barbell Spin says nope. I think I'm thinking of the Olympia. I think Grid League was at the Olympia.
Maybe. I know it wasn't at Arnold.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right.
I'm looking for the community division here.
I have 3.
Community division.
Team and division qualifier.
Here,
That's all right. If Jason finds it, that's cool. Otherwise, that's all right. I'm sure
I can tell you real quick.
The viewers can also look after. All right, let's answer another question.
Let's see what exercise I said.
Isn't Waza a part of the WFP season?
Spencer.
From Extra Sloppy.
No, they're not.
Okay.
No, no, we are all independent at this point.
Cool.
I mean, Wadapalooza has already happened, so
yeah.
Right.
Is Wada doing the California one again? Does anybody know that?
I don't think they've announced dates, so that's usually not good.
They did move back their date for the regular one in Miami to March.
That's for 2026.
Yeah.
That's a whole city. That's a Miami Beach city thing.
Yeah.
Trying to get spring breakers out.
Got it.
Yeah, it was kind of raining this year.
Barbell Spin says, yes, they're doing SoCal again. Okay.
Jason, I'm guessing this isn't in your sphere of the business, but do you know if there's any drug testing protocols for the WFP in the works?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Didn't Chandler Smith just take one? I think he just posted.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that's there's a window of time when you compete in the open, because in every open you agree to be drug tested. And then there is something you have to opt out of the testing pool when you retire. So like there's athletes that have retired in quotes, but they haven't opted out of the testing pool. So those athletes still could like surface back in. If they ever get out of the testing pool, they have to wait a certain amount of time to re-enter to compete.
Oh, wow.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, they're being tested.
Okay, we missed this question. I think that this is a good one. Did anyone on the WFP team do the CrossFit Open this year?
Like sign up for it or do it?
Let's go over both.
I did one workout, but in all fairness, I didn't do it last year either. So, and I was actually on the Masters CrossFit Games staff, so and I didn't do it. So, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know if anybody signed up for it or not. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. Got it.
I will say I can answer for myself. I did not sign up for it. But like I said, I didn't sign up last year either.
Cool. Any reason why? Any particular reason?
This year or last year?
Both.
Last year I was ineligible to go advance anywhere, and I had just turned fit. It's kind of part of my story too, is like I had kind of set myself up to try to I wanted to go win the games when I was 50. And then when Bob and Joe called me, I was like, I had to make a decision that, is that something I'm okay with hanging up? And my wife and I had that. And my wife's like, you're not going to be okay not competing. And so I was like, we had to talk through that and figure it out. So part of the reason I didn't, and I could have signed up last year to see I would have ranked. I know I would have ranked because I did all the workouts and kept track just for my own sanity. But I don't think I paid and signed up simply because it's just one of those things for me is like, if I would have done it and saw my name on the leaderboard, I would have like had regret. I didn't want to have regret.
Sure. Yeah. What about this year? Same thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, I'm not going to go compete in it. So I didn't see the need to sign up for it, but I think the Open's great. I think it's probably one of the things that they do the best, to be honest with you.
Would you and Grubber be going head to head?
Oh, we've gone head to head for years. He's kicked my ass for years. So.
Oh, really?
No, I'm 50. He's 49. So that was why I wanted to go win the games.
Got it.
So, yeah.
One more year without him, huh?
Yeah. Grub and I is like, the best I can do with Grub is beat him in some events. But then the events he beats me in, there's such a wide gap between him. It is what it is. He's the best.
That's awesome. What's going on with the rec league? How will that tie into the current season? Barbell Spin.
Yeah, that again is not really in my wheelhouse of rec league. That's Saxon. Saxon's doing the rec league, so he's got all the rec league questions and answers. We will be having an event taking place in Indianapolis for that. But yeah, that's Saxon's wheelhouse.
Cool. Like an event where like the spectators can join or people from affiliates. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be anybody. Okay. It'll be announced here pretty quickly.
Sweet. Is it going to
be cool?
Be during the big event?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah, Saxon's setting all that up. So
we should do it, Joe. Logan, you're too fit.
What?
That's cool. All right. Yeah.
Well, the format is twos, right? It's pairs.
In the rec league?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely taking Logan. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Dude, what? No, I'm taking Logan. Forget you, dude.
Now you got Tristan.
Yeah, you got Tristan. You signed up for that.
No, Jason, I think we're all like super excited, honestly, for this.
Thanks.
This is going to be really cool. I think something else in the space too, in general, just like fitness wise, is something people look forward to is change, new events, new people, and actually not really new people, just reinventing themselves into a space that, the fitness can be really exacerbated to a different level that people are looking forward to.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the platform. I think that when it plays out and people, there's just really nothing else you can say until you go do, right? I could sit here and tell you how great everything is in the world. It doesn't matter until we go do it. So I just appreciate the opportunity to talk where you guys are asking us really, really good questions. And I believe in the people that are behind it. I think Will is the right guy at the right time, just coming off of competing and, competed for a long time in this space, and he knows a lot about it. He knows a lot of the pitfalls and downfalls and what was really hard for him, and he's trying to fix those things. And I think that's a good thing. That's really all we're trying to do. We're not trying to put anyone out of business. We're not trying to backtrack what we're saying. We can only roll out what we're ready to roll out at the time we're ready to roll it out. And so, Justin, I think I shared this with you maybe last time we talked, maybe the first time we talked. I kind of live by the 80-10-10 rule. 10% of the people, there's literally nothing you can do to make them happy. And so you have to kind of take that for what it is. So you can fix every problem that they bring you, and it doesn't matter. They're going to just throw darts, and that's okay. Yeah. And 10% of the people, you can do no wrong. They're your ride or dies, and you can fall down and fail, and they're going to be the ones that are there picking you up and giving you a hug and patting you on the backside and telling you to keep going. And then there's 80% of the people that we have to go fight for. And that's what we're doing. We're putting together a plan to go fight for the 80% because we know 10% of the people are going to hate us no matter what we do. And 10% of people are going to love us no matter what we do. And we have to go put a season together and a community together and all of our plans together to make those 80% understand that we are there for them in the end. And we're not trying to do anything to anybody other than create a business model and go compete in the space. That's it.
Yeah. And I think, like in your guys, like to compliment you guys, like I know I've met, like we've spent some time around each other. I've spent actually quite a bit of time around Ryan, not like personally, but I used to work with Fit Aid a lot, and I'd see him at events and stuff. And just knowing that you two are a part of this like bigger thing, I have no doubts that it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a great season, a great league. So that's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah. And real quick, I know that I don't speak for the community, but I know I share a lot of the sentiments. Personally, we all want CrossFit to succeed. Like CrossFit is like the methodology in the bubble of that. And we know that sport and methodology, from what we're trying to do by cure chronic disease and like make the world a better, happier, healthier place, we know that sport isn't the biggest driver for that. So for me personally, if the WFP became the thing and the games wasn't a thing, and that allowed CrossFit HQ to do its job better by lifting up the affiliates and driving media to the affiliates and selling more seminars, big picture, I'm good with that because I think that's a better path to saving more lives.
Agree with you 100%. And I think it's probably where everybody's at right now is they don't really know where CrossFit's going. I mean, I don't. Do you?
No, right.
Right. So, and I think we're getting criticism for creating a path to go somewhere, and that's all we're trying to do. Like, if they choose to get better, then awesome. I think a strong community there makes everybody better. And but I don't know where they're going. I don't even know who's going to own them tomorrow. So I think that's kind of the issue that, if you're an affiliate owner, which you are, and I'm talking to you, not everybody else, but those are the questions. Those are the questions that I had when I owned it. I owned an affiliate. I ran multiple affiliates. Like, I wrestled with that stuff every day. It became a point when I dropped my affiliate is because the brand was hurting me, not helping me. And it doesn't mean that I'm any better at running a gym than anybody else. It was just in my community, in my bubble, not having an affiliate branded gym helped me. And that's sad. I don't think that's where we should be. And I don't think it has to be that way, but that's where we are now.
Maggie Ludwig said something similar to that when they went from CrossFit Redemption or CrossFit Waukesha to Redemption Fitness. It was a better, more marketable business and brand. They still
100%.
did all the same things because the methodology is incredibly successful and works so good. But if you put CrossFit whatever on a billboard, it's only going to appeal to those already kind of deciding to do CrossFit. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's we did the same thing. I owned a gym called Midwestern Built CrossFit. We had 4 of them, and we dropped the CrossFit and became Midwestern Built Fitness. And it's not because I hate CrossFit. It had nothing to do with my personal feelings for CrossFit. The community didn't change my life. It probably saved my life and probably saved my marriage, to be honest with you. So the community saved me. CrossFit did not. CrossFit was just the driver that got me in the door to do that. And I'm a competitor. I played college sports. It's like I thrived in that environment. Not everybody thrives in that environment. And that's okay. And so you have to make sure as a gym owner, you're creating an environment that's not just about competition. I personally love the environment that was about competition, but I had 300 members, and of my 300 members, 25 of them thrived in competition, and 275 of them thrived in functional fitness. And my wife ran functional fitness, and we fought all the time about all the space my athletes were taking up all over the gym and creating chaos. And, I'm in the middle of it trying to compete, and I didn't listen to her. And then on this side of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, she was right. Like, I created chaos with my 25 athletes that the 275 I failed. And so that was really hard for me to look back on. And if I have any regrets of owning the gym, it was like I didn't pay enough attention to the 275, and I failed as a gym owner in doing that.
Wow, that's a really honest answer, honest take.
That's cool. I think it's a common pitfall a lot of affiliates fall trapped to is an athlete or some athletes come to their gym that they're like, oh my gosh, we got to get this kid to regionals, or oh my gosh, we got to get this kid to somewhere.
Oh, man.
And you put so much energy into that athlete, which yes, that's great. We do want to support that as big as we can, but that's a very exhaustive process compared to the herd that you should really be taking care of to make sure that they're losing weight and improving their health markers and all that
100%
stuff. So
right.
I get what you're saying.
And that's where I failed. I took an athlete to regionals in 2017. I took an athlete to Mayhem Classic in 2020. I took an athlete to Granite Games when it was a semifinal in 2021. I took an athlete to semifinals and it was in Pasadena in 2022. I've done that, and I put so much focus on that. Yep. And what's funny is at the end of the day, those people weren't even paying me a membership.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so dumb. It's so dumb. It's so short-sighted. And so that's not CrossFit's fault. That's my fault. But at the end of the day, the 275 people that were in love with fitness and community fitness, they should have been taken better care of. That's part of the reason why I left the gym space, because I love the event space. I love competition, and it's what I'm good at. And so I needed to leave that community in better hands, and I did.
And that mistake is still made with the best intentions, right? Like, you have the tools to take this athlete as far as they want to go, and you want to do that, because if you don't do that, who's going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, right? I ran a gym more as a coach than as a gym as a gym owner is what I did.
Yeah. That's a very common thing.
Yeah.
And a transition that we've seen the last year or two. And it's been our revenue is double what it was 18 months ago. And that's just from moving from what is a hobby to a business.
I mean, we had to, and here's what's funny is here I'm arguing with my wife about it, and I had to cancel 5:30 CrossFit because she had 55 people in functional fitness at 5:30. And I'm like, I'm so blind to elite athletes that I can't see what is right in front of me. And luckily, she helped me run the business, so it's not like we just completely fell out on these people. She loved them.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm talking about me personally. It's just funny to look back on it, how you can be so wrong when you're trying to do the right thing.
With that size of classes, how big was your affiliate square footage wise?
We were massive. We had
over 10,000.
Yeah.
His gym was cool, dude.
I had probably the nicest gym in America, and I'm not kidding.
I went to one of them. Which one did you open up for the monster or for the people to go warm up and stuff? Or that, I don't know.
What year was that?
Last year.
Oh yeah, that was our facility.
Yeah, it was a big gym. It's a
big modern building. It's got saunas, and it's stupid. It's awesome. Don't get me
Jason,
wrong.
I want to pick your brain now, because we're building an 11,200 square foot gym, and we've traveled to Proven, to Mayhem, to all these gyms to kind of see what gold standard is currently in the space, and we're trying to like leap that. I would love to pick your brain on some of the things that you wish you would have done differently in builds or layout design. I would love that help.
Yeah, I actually think, Justin saw it. I think our gym is laid out like perfect. I would say it was perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm saying I feel like because I built this from scratch. Yeah. And I had been to Mayhem. I think my gym's laid out better than Mayhem. I think it's laid out better than any of the Invictus gyms I've been to, which those are typically small because of the markets they're in. But I spent time with Ben in Boston looking at some of his gyms.
Yep.
I actually took a model off of one of his smaller gyms, CrossFit Tilt in Western Boston area. I went out there and kind of stole some of his ideas. I just did it at a grander scale. The layout of his gym was awesome out there.
Yeah.
Max runs his gyms out there, or I guess they're actually Max's gyms. I think Ben's a partner in them, but I'm drawing a blank on.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. And
so you got my number. So anytime you want to chat, I can talk you through why we built what we built and how we built it.
Awesome.
Cool. Jason, do you have time for 2 more questions?
Sure.
All right, sweet. Appreciate your time too, man.
We're going long.
The Barbell Spin asked, do Challenger Division athletes get their travel paid for? And then
that's a great question. As of now, no. For the finals, yes. Cool. So for Tour Event 1, Sweet. Tour Event 2, no. Everybody that makes it to the finals, everything's paid for.
That's freaking awesome. Dense updates. The 2 North American events look to be in very rural locations, not close to town, nightlife, restaurants, etc. Are you expecting many spectators with these locations?
2 parts of that, and I'm assuming they're asking why we chose those. Well, one, they're both sports venues. They're not convention centers. So yeah, convention centers are typically going to be in downtown, and they're a little bit of blank cabins. They also come with, they're not set up for sports.
Yeah.
So there's also, availability at the time frame we are working on. So, but I think when people see Grand Park, they're going to be like, oh my. This is, it's 367,000 square feet of soccer field. It's awesome.
Right.
It's
and let's be real. Carson was not a lovely place to go vacation.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was like, there's not a lot of places.
Yeah.
I competed at Granite Games in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Right.
Those good times back in the day.
Well, I think the community creates its own. There's restaurants and bars and breweries and distilleries and stuff like that around Westfield that I've personally been to. Travel with your people and go out with them and create something really cool at a restaurant you go to in Westfield. That's all I can say about that. Mesa,
you bring your community in an Airbnb,
bring your crew, man.
Any event, you're going to have fun.
Yeah. And then Dense just says, kind of a fun one. Appreciate you. Also, will there be any hotel room blocks for the event spectators and competitors? Asking for me. Oh, thanks.
Yes, there is. In fact, we had to get all athletes, coaches, managers, staff, all of that stuff booked, which we have that done. So I believe as soon as the Challenger division is done, we'll be releasing all the hotel blocks.
Cool, man.
Nice.
When is the first event again? May what?
9th, 10th, and 11th.
Oh, dude, on my birthday. Maybe I'll show up.
It's Mother's Day weekend, right? So again, not ideal. So sorry, all you mothers out there. But we tried really, really hard to not be on top of an in-person affiliate. In-person qualifier.
Yeah.
So we tried really hard not to do that. It was very, very difficult, to be honest with you. In fact, most of the weekends that were open were on top of those events, and we made people don't believe us, but we made a conscious effort to not do that as best we could.
And to be real, like the CrossFit Games season just changed again. Like you can only have so much schedulability.
With we were booking
an ever-evolving competition season.
We were booking all this stuff prior to the season being released. So the only reason why we were able to do what we did was we had, of course, there was leaks everywhere. So we had a general idea of what was happening. Mm-hmm. And we made a change at the last second that, again, we'll not get credit for, and that's okay. I'm not looking for credit, but we had an event scheduled in the same city as another in-person semifinal, and I moved it because of that.
Yeah.
Cool.
You guys probably heard about that.
Yeah.
That was leaked out there.
No, this is all good stuff for the community at large to hear. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I think you answered a lot of really good questions, Jason. I'm super excited for the WFP and to probably show up in Indianapolis too, just to kind of check it out and see what's going on. So
yeah, I mean, come do it. We've built an arena around it. It's gonna be a show. Like I'm telling you, we're sparing no expense. Think of the whole Jurassic Park line, right? Like we spared no expense, and we want the spectator experience to be awesome. We want the athlete experience to be awesome, and we're going to put on a show. It's going to be fun. Whether there's 5 people there or 5,000, we're going to have fun.
Sweet, man. Well, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for answering the questions. Thanks for hanging out for almost 2 hours now. And
oh my gosh. Yeah.
It flew by, dude. We're having a good time. Yeah. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any other questions, be sure to comment them. I'll shoot them over to Jason. Maybe he'll come back on and answer some more questions, or next week.
Anytime.
Hopefully we have Ryan Husband on next week. Until then, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks. Jason,
thanks, Jason.
Thanks, guys. Stream if you guys want to chill for a second.
I'll be in touch.
I appreciate you guys. All right. Thanks. Bye.